I'm making a video game with underwater mechanics. In this devlog,
Anchor improvements, additional levels. For my first pass, I updated the logic to check if the player is holding an item, and if so, to add that item to the hook. However, this left me with a few bugs. Since I changed the parent for the treasure but don't touch the item port component, the item port still thinks it's holding an item. So, you can still throw the chest while it's in the hook. So, I had to change my implementation and make the player item port remove its reference to the item. This fixes the bug that lets you throw the chest once it's on the anchor. This also prevents miscounting treasures and allows a player to auto-exit a level when holding a treasure, and get credit for it. The final change to the anchor was to increase the trigger area, so a player could throw a chest at a hook and it works. This addresses specific feedback with a level that consistently had players throw the chest higher than the original area, touching the hook and the chest not being counted as gathered. Last time, I remade the level complete screen, but left the progression bar for later. This time, I added the same roll-up animation and refactored that effect so it's not copy-pasted everywhere. This level is based on a sketch of a ship broken in half. The first thing I tried to figure out was the right angle for the perpendicular wall. I manually rotated a vertical wall and then tried to compare which one of my blockout walls would fit. Since none fit, before I end up making the shape and have to redesign things, I tried creating the same tile setup in Sprite. I decided to take another attempt at just making the general shape even if the angles don't match the sketch exactly. Since this level has a diagonal wall in the middle, I tried building that shape with the current tiles in Sprite first. I had to create a variation for diagonal tiles that are 2 squares wide. The first versions looked odd, but after much reworking, I came up with something that looked okay. Knowing that shape was possible with tiles, I got back to blocking out the level. With the rough shape defined, I ran through the level and adjusted the size where necessary in order to keep in line with my defined metrics. Happy with the shape and size, I started laying out the traps. I worked on an idea for a variant of the crab patrol using multiple crabs to extend the size of that trap. This level uses both crabs and jellyfish and tests how their mechanics come together. On the left side, I used a set of crab clusters as the final trap. Their patrolling behavior creates some sections where you may have to go precisely between them based on their waiting pattern. The right side of the level is designed as the harder side, so I worked a lot on balancing that area to ensure you could beat it without getting hit. As usual, before moving on to the art stage, I needed to get a run in the blockout stage where I don't get hit, adjusting traps on sections that felt particularly challenging. The art pass went pretty quick afterwards. For the final check, I completed a no-hit run of the level with a tile art complete. Here's a high-level overview of this level. This level is based on 2 ships that collided with each other. Since this level doesn't have abnormal shapes, blocking out the outline of the level went pretty smoothly. The internal blockout took a bit of work, ensuring the distance between chests and the entrance fit the size metrics for a level of this size. With some adjustments, I eventually ended up with a size that felt good. Similar to the last level, I laid out the traps and played through their sections, adjusting them when needed until everything felt right. As usual, the art pass started with collider tiles and ended with the filler tiles. Then the final test, a run without getting hit. Here's a high-level overview of this level. The final level in this world is based on a large ship with 3 masks. Since the focus for this level is the masks, I worked on making those shapes be more interesting than just straight towers. The first size check without traps was a little bit too big, so I shrunk the level in order to reduce a few seconds from the travel time. During the trap layout phase, I tried an arrangement with a puffer fish between 2 crabs. Since this was a really tight fit, it did not end up making it in the final version. While checking the distance with traps, I reduced the area a bit so you could get to the 3rd tower faster without much tedium. Happy with that, I proceeded to work on the final art of the level. A part of the level had a transition between a vertical and a single wide tile platform. Instead of reworking the area, I created a special tile to blend those 2 tiles. For the final test, I had to complete a run without getting hit. Here's a high-level overview of the final level. During playtesting, I found a bug that causes one of the crabs to push me out of the bounds of the terrain. In order to solve this, I updated the trigger damage script to allow certain objects to disable collisions while the player is within the trigger area. I gathered some feedback on whether a player would expect collisions to be ignored while invulnerable or not. The general consensus was that collisions should be disabled for enemies while you take damage. Based on the feedback, I created a Trello task to update the behavior for all traps.
That's it for this devlog. My focus for the next part will be
update the collision logic for all traps, rework the tutorial, add localization support. I want to give a shout out to all of you who have added Don't Drown to your wishlist. With your support, the game has crossed the 100 wishlist mark. If you want to support me, please visit the Don't Drown store page linked in the description and add the game to your wishlist. Until next time.